The Added Time Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Added Time Podcast. I'm your host, Tiers Combat, as usual. Thank you to the lovely comments from the fans. You've really been stroking my ego recently, calling me the best podcast host out of the three of us. So yeah, thanks. I won't say that myself, but if you want to say it, then go for it. Going to be doing something interesting today. We're going to be doing the all-time greatest Premier League 11 off the back of that greatest Premier League side debate. I think we all fancied doing this as well. Firstly, I'm actually joined by Harry Martin, funnily enough, rather than James Ward. How are you, Harry?
Wow, Tiers, I'm great on this fine morning, As always, been typing away on the website, 45plus3.com. That's how I'm going to start every podcast, with a little plug for you guys. Don't get put off, I'm just happy to be back with the boys and you lot talking football. That's what we like to do.
Yeah, I'm also joined by James Ward. Hood up, James Ward. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic, thank you, Tiers. And in regards to Tiers' first point of the episode today, him saying that the comments have been saying he's the best co-host ever, as Paul McCartney once said, this never happened before. No one has ever commented on the fact Tiers is the best co-host. What a disgusting claim. Everyone knows that it is, Harry.
Wow, big one. That could be a debate next episode, to be fair. Do a whole episode on that if you guys really want to. But let's just get straight into the debate today, lads. Let's just do it. We're going to do it like we did with the World 11, the episode which you guys love so much. We're going to open up with the goalkeeper, and I'm going to kick us off, and I'm going to say that the goalkeeper that I have as the greatest of all time is Peter Schmeichel. Reasoning behind that, he's won 5 league titles. Amazing stuff. Also Danish born, that always helps. He made 400 first team appearances, multiple clean sheets, probably the greatest save of all time. I think it was against Newcastle or something. Harry, do you have any different players?
Of course I do. I think that was a bit of a nation bait as a fellow Dane yourself. Clear bias there. It's a bit ridiculous. But obviously I've gone for Petr Cech, 4-time Prem winner. Well, no, I've been in the last thing. If Alisson keeps it up, I'd probably say Alisson. If he keeps up this form in the current Liverpool team, I'd say Alisson. But for me, still at the moment, Petr Cech. Van der Sar's up there, but he wasn't in the Premier League for too long, and he was towards the end of his career, to be fair. And, for entire career, I'm going to go Cech, 4 Premier League titles and dominant in his area. Over to James.
Touched on it in the previous episode. I've gone with by far the greatest Premier League goalkeeper of all time. 4 Premier League titles, 1 Golden Glove, 132 clean sheets in 313 games. It is that man, Edwin van der Sar. What a player. The stature of the man. He was just fantastic, wasn't he? It helped the defence he had in front of him. But we'll get to the defence. Don't let me rush ahead. We'll get there and listen to whatever embarrassment Tiers is going to make of himself next.
So, like we did with the World 11, we'll go to votes on each position. Personally, I can't go for Van der Sar. I think he was greatly helped out by his defence, which I will compliment. I don't think Van der Sar was the greatest goalkeeper, though. I can't really remember a Van der Sar compilation of great saves. I think Peter Schmeichel over him. If I'm going to go for anyone there, I would go for Petr Cech. Harry, what do you think?
Well, yeah, obviously I'm going to stick with my pick. Sorry, the others don't even come close. And Peter Schmeichel is just not even in the question. That's ridiculous.
Well, glad Harry's agreed with me here that Peter Schmeichel's got to be one of the most abysmal choices ever. As Harry said, Tiers has spoken with his heart there like a true Dane. Your mum would be proud, Tiers, but I'm going to go with Harry here. Probably, if I was to pick out of Petr Cech or Peter Schmeichel, no-brainer, it's going to be Petr Cech. If I was to pick out the 3, it'd be Van der Sar, but for the sake of the argument, if I can't pick my own, I'll go with Petr Cech.
So, Petr Cech in goal. We'll move on to right back. James, you want to kick us off again? I'll swiftly throw the mic back to you.
At right back, I've gone for someone that might have flown under the radar for a few people, but I've gone Branislavanovic. Fantastic player. Close runner-up is Gary Neville, but Branislavanovic, I mean, he was just class, wasn't he? And I know we're speaking about the Premier League, but him in the European competitions, possibly one of the greatest right backs ever to grace a football pitch. His goal against Benfica specifically to win them the Europa League. Just what a player. Fantastic player. Harry, who've you got?
I'm going for Ivanovic. Ivanovic. Hope you enjoy that scene. Yeah, I'm going to agree with James. Obviously, I've got a slight bias on this one. Well, I actually nearly forgot him in the planning for this process. I was thinking Gary Neville, but I thought quality of actual quality on the pitch, I think you can't go wrong with Ivanovic. I think Gary Neville was definitely consistent over time, but actual how good he was, Ivanovic, no one comes close to Ivanovic for me.
Personally, I really don't see Ivanovic as the greatest Premier League right back of all time. I think it's laughable, to be honest. I've personally gone for Gary Neville. 8 Premier League titles, 8, compared to Ivanovic's 3. I mean, if you're going for Ivanovic, I'd throw Kyle Walker in there over Ivanovic, really. But as you both gone for him, I can't win this, I guess. But just know that Gary Neville, for me, is the greatest right back in Premier League history. I think he's been massively overlooked there, and his title wins speak for themselves. We'll move into the centre backs. We'll do these as a couple. And Harry, who have you got? I'm guessing 2 Chelsea ones.
No, actually, I've gone for John Terry. I mean, obvious choice. I think I'm hoping at least one of you's got him as well. And then beside him, I've gone for. Is he another Serbian? Am I right in saying Vidic? They are, isn't they? So pairing up Vidic. Obviously, I've just said his name again twice. So if you didn't hear me first, you hear me the second time. Yeah, I've gone for Vidic. I think there wasn't a striker that wasn't scared of playing against him, and I think him and Terry together would just complement each other greatly. You know, I wasn't the biggest fan of Ferdinand. I think he'd get caught out of position sometimes. I think people just liked him for how good he was on the ball. Maybe overlooked sometimes his weaknesses as a defender. His pace helped him out a lot. But as 2 defenders, I've gone for Terry and Vidic, both dominant, both multiple Premier League titles between them. I think you can't go wrong. And James, who have you got?
Like I touched upon when speaking about the mighty Edwin van der Sar, his defence helped him out a lot, and that's going to speak for itself with my 2 picks. I've joined Harry on the Vidic hype. We've gone Nemanja Vidic, and next to him, of course, we've gone for the mighty Rio Ferdinand. What a pairing. I mean, if you're picking a team that can play well together, proof's in the pudding. The best centre-back partnership in Premier League history. And if you're speaking individually as well, I mean, Ferdinand's pace alone holds him right at the very top, and Vidic just, I mean, what couldn't that man do? He was class, barring one performance against Liverpool. I mean, other than that, I don't think I've ever seen him have a bad game. We'll go on to Tierces, unfortunately for you guys.
I've actually going to make it 3 for 3, and I've also said Nemanja Vidic. So I guess the rest of the debate will come down to this last one. Harry's got Terry, James has got Ferdinand, and I've got Laurent Koscielny. Joking. I've actually got Vincent Kompany. I don't think you can look past this man. 4 Premier League titles, maybe even the greatest Premier League captain of all time. Just his leadership, especially in that last season. You could see City falling apart this season a bit because they don't have that leader in Kompany. Transformed the club along with all the other money, but he was really that rock at the back, and I really don't think you can look past him.
I think you can, because he was injured 99% of the time. It's ridiculous. Kompany was always injured. I think he was great when he played for City, but his injuries definitely hold him back. I think, and yeah, you can't. Terry, I'm sticking with my decision on that one. Ferdinand's a good shout, but I think all round Terry is the better defender. And I think as a pairing, Terry and Vidic, I think Kompany was just injured too much. When he did play, no doubt, but his injuries hold him back a lot.
Right. So, Terry or Ferdinand? I guess it's down to my pick because James is going to say Ferdinand. So, I shouldn't even give him the mic. But, it's a tough one. I think I'm going to have to go for Rio Ferdinand. I think putting him alongside Vidic and keeping this not from being 3 out of 4 players as the Chelsea back 4. I'll go for Rio Ferdinand, and he can line up again with Vidic and Ivanovic. Do, 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 do. Wow, catchy song, guys. Left back, I think this should be overwhelmingly landslide, as I've got Ashley Cole. I would assume Harry does as well. Harry, you can probably talk about it more in depth than I can.
Yeah, I've got Ashley Cole. I think easily, arguably the best left back of all time. Easily the best left back in the world in his era. I think, no question. I think hopefully James has got the same. Otherwise, he really doesn't know ball, and I'll be shocked. But yeah, I think he's the one position where I think he's just a complete shoe-in this whole team.
Well, then, I suppose we've got a shocked Harry Martin in the room, as I've gone for the mighty Patrice Evra. What a player he was in his day. I can see the argument for Ashley Cole was quality. The pace on the man was unreal. The defensive, the reading of the game was brilliant as well. So I'm happy to concede this point. Well, I mean, I've not really got much choice in the matter. But personally, I'd go for Patrice Evra, not only for his personality after the game, but also his quality on the pitch was just impeccable, breathtaking at times.
If we're going personality, then I'll start with Jimmy Bullard in the centre mid position. I think that's probably the most laughable comment ever on this podcast. Okay, so just recapping the defence there, we got Cech, Ivanovic, Vidic, Ferdinand, and Ashley Cole. So let's get into the midfield. We've gone for 4 across the midfield. Wingers, I think it's hard to do a right and left. We'll just do them as a couple again, and we'll do the same with the centre mids and the strikers. I have got Cristiano Ronaldo and Mohamed Salah. Personally think that Ronaldo, he's just shown what he's gone on to do. I think arguably one of maybe the top 5 greatest players of all time. I think these lads will probably say he's the best of all time. Not that Messi exists, but I think Ronaldo definitely gets in there. That I'd imagine they put the same. Mohamed Salah for me scored the most goals in a Premier League season ever, scoring 32. They didn't even win the league, so that just shows his individual prowess there, playing mainly as a winger. 32 goals is just amazing. Harry, what you've got?
I've gone for Ronaldo. I think everyone has, and left wing, as that's how I was doing it positionally. I've gone for Hazard. I think in his time, easily I don't know why people overlook it, but he wasn't all about goals and assists. The things he did for Chelsea in the last couple of years, literally had them on his back. Easily, I would say the best player in the Prem with De Bruyne. They're in a class of their own up there, and I think he carried that Chelsea team when you look at the state of it now, it's like shocking without him. Even though Frank Lampard's done well, I think before the start of the season, after we lost him, people were saying we might even come 10th, 11th, 12th. Like, ridiculous. We've just overperformed. And I think that just shows how big a loss he was. And everyone realised that. And I think on his day, he was just completely unstoppable. I think the only reason he gets overlooked is he didn't get so many goals and assists. But that just wasn't the type of player. He just made chances for other people. And he just provided great build-up and breaking down that low block teams that we see that bottom half teams like to do. So for me, I've gone for Ronaldo and Hazard. What have you got, James?
I've gone for Cristiano Ronaldo. Obviously, probably the greatest player of all time. Not probably, he is the greatest player of all time. And then I've also gone for Robert Pires. Close second being John Barnes, but Robert Pires possibly one of the greatest wingers of all time as well. Class for Arsenal back in the day, part of the Invincible team. Goes without saying really. If I was to pick out the other two, it definitely wouldn't be Mohamed Salah. Disgraceful that Tiers has put him in there after 3 good seasons. I'd probably go for Hazard, yeah.
Quick one on Salah. Well, he did play a season before at Chelsea, and I think he got 4 goals and assists. So if you're just acting like he just came back with the finished product and hit the ground running, he didn't at Chelsea, and he was very rough. So that would be my point on Salah. So obviously I'm sticking with my point and my boy Hazard.
All right, I think that's fair enough. We'll go for Ronaldo and Hazard personally. I don't even remember what James said. Was it John Barnes or something like that? We're not going for that. We're going for Ronaldo and Hazard. Let's go for the centre mids. Who have I got? I've gone for the top scoring midfielder of all time, I think, in Frank Lampard. I think he wins in the Lampard v Gerrard debate every day of the week. I think he just was a more complete player. you can see by the amount of goals he scored and the amount of title wins he had. Just a fantastic player, maybe up there for greatest English player of all time. Alongside him, I've actually gone for a more recent player. I've gone for Kevin De Bruyne. I think he's arguably could go down as one of the greatest Premier League players of all time, just for pure ability. He's got loads of assists and goals. If you look at his appearances, he's won, I think, 3 or 4 Premier League titles. 2 Premier League titles. Sorry about that. And I just think he's a very good player. Harry, who have you got?
Well, I think everyone on this podcast is going for Lampard, and I am going to be no different as a Chelsea fan. And I think I've gone for a bit of an odd choice of next alongside him. But for me, this player just a ruthless winner. I've gone for Roy Keane. Also, a bit of a fan favourite of mine just for his personality on TV. And I just think when you look back at old videos, the way he carried that Man United team, he never let anyone slack off. He made everyone around him better. And I think you need that in a team. And I think maybe not for his qualities, but I'm picking him more for what he'd do for the team and what he was just a serial winner. There's nothing there to win that he hasn't won. And he is, for me, a Premier League great. And I just love the way he commands the team and his dominant nature. And I think he'd be really good in any Premier League all-time XI. Over to James to see what he thinks.
I've gone for Lampard. Goals and assists alone speak for themselves. And then alongside him, I've gone for the greatest English centre midfielder of all time, and also the greatest Premier League centre midfielder of all time, Paul Scholes. It's just on his own in that regard. I mean, the fact that he came out of retirement, bought a pair of £30 boots from Sports Direct and ran Man City off the park. I mean, what more do you have to say about the man? The little ginger rocket. What a player.
Paul Scholes, I think I don't really need to have a comment on because I wasn't ever a great fan of Paul Scholes, to be honest. I'd probably go for Gerrard over him in the midfield. So I guess I'll kind of let you guys debate. It's probably up to Harry whether he agrees with James on Paul Scholes, I guess, if no one's going to go for De Bruyne.
Well, I think James is a bit of a closet Man United fan, to be fair, after this couple podcasts. I think it's been a bit ridiculous. I think, well, you know what? My one, I'm happy to subside with Roy Keane. It's just a bit of a personal selection. So you know what? I'm going to go with Gerrard. That none of us have picked. I think you all won me over on that one. And I think, I'm going to pick Gerrard, even though he didn't win the Premier League famously. Just such a consistent performer. I think one of my favourite years is when him and Torres were linking up. I think they won 4-0 at Old Trafford. I think that was one of my best games I've ever watched on Sky Sports. And he ran over and kissed the camera. So I'm going to go for Gerrard. I think Tiers might agree, but I'm going to go over to James.
So we've got host applications for the podcast on 45plus3.com. Tiers just completely invalidated all of his football opinions by saying he didn't really rate Paul Scholes. Need I say any more? For that reason alone, I'm going to go with Harry's pick of Roy Keane. Just disgusting.
So what James is trying to say there is if any Man United fans are out there, come back him up on the podcast. I'll go for Harry or Gerrard as well. I did allude to that I'd go for him over Scholes. I think those three are definitely the best English centre mids of all time, but I think Lampard and Gerrard, because the conversation is always Lampard or Gerrard. It's never Lampard or Scholes when you see all these Instagram polls and whatever. So we'll go for Gerrard, switch it up, the first non-Chelsea Man United player. So let's finish up with the strikers. I'm not sure there's going to be much debate here. I mean, honourable mentions, I definitely have Aguero. But for me, it's got to be the top scorer of all time in the Premier League, Alan Shearer. And joining him, maybe the greatest Premier League player of all time, in my opinion, Thierry Henry. I think over 200 goals for Arsenal. Just some of the goals he scored were just out of this world. He has gone on to win the Champions League at Barcelona, so you can't say he hasn't won everything. I think just a great all-round player and just amazing. Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, I know. I think you have to have Shearer. Just is it 260 goals? That is just absolutely ridiculous. Kane had a chance to beat him. I think But even Kane slowing down a bit or not keeping up with the insane pace that Shearer set. And you have to go for Henry. 4 golden boots, 2 player of the seasons. He was in that famous Invincible side. That, as you say, about scoring great goals. That one where he flicked it over and volleyed it without even looking. I'm not sure who was against. Right in the far corner. I think if you don't have Henry and Shearer, I think it's just ridiculous. I think they're the easiest choices. And I think James is going to agree. I think Aguero is a good honourable mention. You know, what he's done for Man City and his consistency. I think sometimes it goes underlooked with how good like the players around him are. Sometimes he just flies under the radar a bit like Kevin De Bruyne, I think, just because of how good that team is. Sometimes they fly under the radar. But yeah, I'm sticking with the same picks as Tiers, and hopefully James will do the same. Obviously, he doesn't know ball again.
I'm going to revise one of my picks that I actually chose for the episode, which was Aguero. I'm going to revise him, take him out of the equation, and the 2 I'm going for is the 2 greatest English strikers of all time. Firstly, we're going to go with Alan Shearer, fantastic goal scorer, and then a similar player. We're going for Wayne Rooney, possibly it's not even possible. He's the greatest English striker of all time, greatest English goal scorer of all time, one of the greatest Manchester United players of all time. I think without question he goes into the team for me. So yeah, I'd have him and Shearer up front, and imagine that as a partnership as well. I mean, I know they don't offer great amounts of pace, but I mean, finishing, physicality, all that good stuff. You're not going to struggle to find that with this front two.
Rooney definitely an honourable mention, but for me, he's more of a player on Drogba's level, just in that subcategory below greatest of all time. Henry for me is the best player in the Premier League we've ever seen. So I don't think you can leave him out, to be honest. Harry, do you have any thoughts on Henry v Rooney?
Yeah, I think it has to be Henry. I think his all-round game, his speed, his size. I think yeah, Rooney is underlooked, and I think what's so good about Rooney is even when he moved back to that centre mid role, when he went to Everton for a bit and a bit of Man United, that just shows his talents that he could even thrive in another position. How good an all-round player he was for Manchester United. But yeah, I think everyone just appreciates how good Henry was, and it definitely can't be overlooked. And I think, yeah, the strikers are just a shoe-in. I think we're all in agreement, even if James is throwing up some honourable mentions.
Honourable mention is quite a disrespectful term to use when speaking about such a legend of the game. Not only for what he done on the pitch, I mean, I've seen a thread of his amazing tweets on Twitter this morning as well. Just one of the greatest footballers of all time, in my opinion. I mean, he was kicking it with Messi and Ronaldo at one point in his career. He was just that good.
Again, another strange point from James saying that his tweets make him the greatest Premier League player of all time. Then you put like suppressed Seek as the best striker of all time. I'm not quite sure what he's trying to suggest there, but I think this is just one of the ones where he's got to suck it up like me and De Bruyne, and you've got to have Henry and Shearer in there. So let's go through the team again. We got Petr Cech in goal, Ivanovic, Ferdinand, Vidic, and Cole making up the back four. Midfield, we've got Ronaldo, Gerrard, Lampard, and Hazard. And then we've got Henry and Shearer up front. Quite a formidable team. Let us know on Twitter at addedtime_pod if you have any disagreements with this team. I'm sure you do, all the Man United fans out there, as we've seen one here get quite riled up. But yeah, remember to check out the website. We'll have an article on this, I'm sure, www.45plus3.com. And again, thanks for listening. Look out for podcasts in the future.
Yeah, guys, I just want to say goodbye. And I mean, for older viewers out there, don't hate us too much. We are naive and young. So we may have left out some older generation players for new ones, such as Hazard, where many of the older generation might have taken gigs. So, it's just our opinion. But feel free to debate with us on Twitter, addedtime_pod, and we'd love to see your opinions there. So thanks for listening.
Speak for yourself, Harry. I mentioned John Barnes, so older listeners, you know who to pick when it comes to voting best podcast host of the year. But as the boys have touched upon, it's been another fantastic episode. We look forward to hearing your feedback on Twitter, and also, like they've both said, check out the website 45plus3.com, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.